Okay, this is the Xcelsius model that we've created in the past. And we've done it with static data. We created this stuff out of Web Intelligence, and you can see here this is an old version of something that I had. And I've reduced it so it only shows me data between 8 and 8, or half 7. I've got a bogus table down there that I don't actually need. Okay, so there's my top level table. The number of teams. I never really needed to do that. It actually needs to come from there. So it's just a count of how many times it finds that person in there. That's effectively how many teams that they've got. So if I copy that down after I lock in that and correct it so it's doing the what I actually want it to do, it finds 7 teams from under. I can actually get rid of this stuff down here. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to use Queries, a web service or QaaWS now with Xcelsius to fill that data in automatically. And I'm going to make my ranges a bit bigger. And it's all going to be data. Okay, so I'm going to clear all this stuff out. And that. But I'm going to keep my keys. And I'm going to use, like I say, Queries, a web service to do this and to fill in that data when I need it. So I'm going to create something that always has yesterday's data in it. So Queries, a web service can be found here. This is what you'll see when you try to log on it. You will need to set up your own hosts. Okay, so read that and pay attention. Do things in Mavis first, and when it's been tested and it's past that, it can be moved to Salty. Okay, so we need to authenticate onto Mavis. It will come up with that error message, and we don't know why. It's a bug with QaaWS. So, using QaaWS, I can see all queries that I've previously created for my Ops dashboard, and then a demo I did for Paul Stobart. They're held in folders. You can put your own training queries in that training folder. But some sample things that I've built are already in there that you can see. And they are web queries, so you can see it's got a URL. So if I create a brand new one, I'm going to show you how it's done. That's where it defines the URL. That URL is something you need to set up when you set up, say, Mavis or BI Portal as a host. And then it's just like creating a Deski or Webi report. You need to select the universe it's going to come from. You're not going to use contact historical because it's slow. It needs to be quick. It needs to be based off materialized views or aggregate layers. And that's what Dashboard ODS is. And it has all the data that we need within it, including predefined non-additive calculations that get us things like SLA, HT, and ACW, filters for yesterday. It's already handled in the materialized view, but it will get purely agent stats. I'm going to use that service call reporting flag yes no to only get the data between 8 and 8, and I know that's a bit of a fudge, and I'm going to do it for a list of CSMs. Okay, so it doesn't quite work the way you expect. You need to put in sorts and your dimensions, so you get data out as you expected. You can change properties here, so you can select to retrieve duplicate rows or not, and you can apply database rankings as well on dimensions that you choose, whether you want to or not. Okay, but basically you can see that I've sorted my data. And when it comes here, it's sorted as you expect. Otherwise, it appears in the result pane there, in the order, it picks it out as a page file. Okay, so when you're done, you finish, and it's there. This, however, in the meantime, is my top level data, which gets data for that top level first table from dashboard ODS, CSM name and SLA. Yesterday, 8 late for my list of CSMs. So to get it into there, I don't click on my URL like this, but I can at least see the service. I can see what it does. And if I go to the SW then I can see a list of all the available services that I've got on the server. Not that it's any of use. But to get it into Excel, click on that, copy it to the clipboard, and come to Manage Your Data Connections, which is what I just highlighted over and then seemingly went away from for some bizarre reason. I'm going to pop a new spreadsheet in there, and it needs to have a login in there. It needs a username and a password to get in, and it's going to be me. And just make these black. There's a password, and there's me. So it basically is going to authenticate onto me, as me. There are ways to make people log on to Xcelsius presentations and get them to put their credentials in there. My data's going to go there. I click on Data Connections. I use that button myself there. I'm going to add a query as a web service, so you can see it appears there. I'm going to give it a name, top table. Copy that to clipboard, paste it in there, and import it. So you can see it needs input values, which are the logins. Click on password, read from password. Okay, so you can't see those. Next thing is it needs to put that data somewhere. So it's going to put SCSM name there, and SLA in column V. This is why you need to scope out things and understand how big data can get. And I'm going to choose my usage. It's going to refresh when it's loaded. And then I'm going to create some data load details in here. So I'm going to record at runtime when things load. So I'm going to have table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4. And I've got load messages that you can see in the data manager. So I'm going to get it to say loading when it's loading, and when it's idle, so it's finished, it's done. And then I'm going to create a load percentage down there that I can use something to point at, to show the person who's using it how much has been done. So all that does is just counts up how many times it finds done, yeah, and divides it by, not 7, 4, should be 4. Anyway, it's a percentage. So that's my load message, that's my idle message, and it's going to insert that for table 1 there. So I add another connection, another one, and another one. That's going to be table 2. So table 2, copy that to clipboard, paste it in there, and import it. And again, I need my login and my password. And it's going to put this data there, team name to the right of it, column F, SLA, and column G. Okay. So my logon is there, and my password is in B2. Again, it's going to refresh before components are loaded. Its loading message is there, its idle message is done, and it's going to insert that there. Okay. When it's working, it's going to enable a load cursor, which is the hourglass, etc. So third connection is table 3. pre-prepared query to clipboard, paste that in there and import it. So again, it needs a logon and a password. CSM name needs to go in column N. So with a mouse, drag that down and put it in there. Slot description to the right of there. Much easier working from bottom up. And SLA in column P. Okay, so usage again needs to refresh before the components are loaded. So as this presentation loads, so it's loading messages there, its idle messages there, and it's going to insert that in row 28. So that's that one done. Last one, table 4, back to class, onto that query, copy the URL to a clipboard, and import it. Log on, password, and then complete that final table. Right then, so that goes in column S, T and U. So as I'm doing that, it's worth mentioning that you can't specify just column S, so S colon S. That will not work. Xcelsius will not let you do that because you specify in the final preferences of Xcelsius how many rows down your spreadsheet is going to look. Okay, so refresh before components are loaded. Fill in its loading messages and its idle messages and tell it to put it in row 29. And then enable cursors at the end and stop people. You don't have to disable mouse input, but it certainly helps. So there is no data in there at the moment. I'm just going to make this slightly bigger. I'm going to change my view so I can see my components again. And I'm just going to use something called a spreadsheet table. And get that spreadsheet table to display to you what's happening down there. Okay, so I'm just going to say properties, general display data, what's in there. So spreadsheet controls are really useful because they let you see when you're previewing things or at runtime what's going on in your spreadsheet. Next thing, I'm just going to drop this in and show it a couple of rows, which is quite a lot of data, and just show to you that when I run this and preview it, that data is going to get filled in there, and you're going to be able to see it live. Okay, so just bring that over there just a little bit. Save what I've done and preview it, and it'll create the flash file. As it's initializing, you can see the mouse cursor turns to the hourglass, it's querying business objects, and it's bring the data in. Okay, so you can see that when it was doing it, the class, the loading messages came up. What I'm going to do now is just put a connection refresh button in there so it's going to be able to refresh all possible connections just so we can see the loading messages properly again. And I'm going to pop in a vertical progress bar there. I'm going to use that first type one. Pop it there. I'm going to set its minimum and maximum limits between 0 and 1. I'm going to tell it it's going to take its data from that loading message there. Its maximum limit is 1. That's where it's going to take its data. what I'm doing now is that I only want this vertical progress bar to show and be visible when stuff's actually loading. So if that load percentage is different from 1, so it's not 100% and 1 or 0. So when it's 1, it should show. So I actually do this wrong here, and I'll go back and fix it in a moment, but the dynamic visibility, it should be taking its status from that cell in B34, the 1 that you can see now, and it's going to show it on the visible key when it equals 1. Those are formulas. And I'll preview it, and it won't work the first time. I remember getting this wrong. Okay, so everything's showing loading, loading, done, 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 done. 100% done. So my little progress bar isn't working quite as intended at this moment in time. Now I'll go ahead and try 0 in there. As I couldn't remember what I'd done. Is that all data showing? Everybody. Done, 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 done. And all my data's in there. So when I've done finish this completely, I can take snapshots of this and I can see what's happening in Excel. And I can just go to File, Snapshot, output it to Excel. Now then, come out of that view. I'm going to save what I'm doing there. I'm going to leave Xcelsius. Because essentially you do not want to have Excel open and Xcelsius open. So here's my snapshot. And let's have a look at what's going on. So then, those are not far enough down. Those are not far enough down. And I'm missing data, I reckon. And my ranges aren't big enough. So I need to make that bigger. So back into Xcelsius. Make that bigger. Make that a heck of a lot bigger. All the way down to row 500 just for the sake of it. I don't have that much data, I'm pretty sure I don't. I'm going to make those two tables there fill all of the data, all of those columns. Now I got that message saying that it's been reduced to the maximum size allowed. Now that's because I previously set a preference that Excel options to only allow 421 days of data. The standard is 501. So if I go back to CSM name now, I can't manually type over that 501. You must select things with the mouse. So select all my columns and all my rows of data. Same with slot description. And lastly with SLA. It's only where the data goes that I need to change and expand. I don't need to redo the logon credentials or anything like that. It's only if I re-import the query. So last one, team name there. All the way to the bottom. Slot description. Just using the keys, it's slightly quicker. Control and there we go. So all our data. And close it. Okay, so preview it this time, and I shouldn't get any gaps in my charts. So connects through, pulls in our data. Yeah, all done. Refresh it. Still got that visibility thing to sort out. So now I've just got my little issue with this progress bar to sort out. And see what's happening again. And wonder if I ever actually got this right. Clicking refresh, done, 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 done. And it's showing. So, drop a spreadsheet control in there, so I can see what's happening to those cells as I'm actually in there, not in the state that they're in Excel. So it's at 0. And I actually want it to be at 1 when everything's refreshed, but it's at 1 as it's refreshing. So something I obviously got wrong, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so it's taking its visibility from there, which is not what I want, and it's based on that key. So this time, dum dum bum bum bum, works as I wanted it to do. Okay, so I can take another snapshot of my data, get rid of those, keep that, get rid of that spreadsheet control. I'm going to keep this, but I'm going to get rid of that 0%, and I'm going to get rid of the ticks. I'm going to make it an awful lot smaller. Get rid of the titles and the values, so it stops displaying those, and I'm just going to pop it somewhere within my little model. So I'm going to bung it there, squidge it right down, and then pop it there. Doesn't really matter for my purposes. Make my canvas fit my controls again, save it, and come out of it. Okay, so just having a look at my snapshot again. My formulas are now all complete, my keys are complete, and just checking I've got enough room for all my data. Yeah, so I've got more than enough room for that. Hourly data would be better. Basically, I did this based on half-hour stuff. The problem with half-hour, the more spots you've got, obviously far more data you've got to hold. As I said there, this would be an awful lot quicker if we could restrict this just to show us only the data it needs, which is in the next lesson. Okay, so that final table we're going to make a lot smaller by using queries, a web service, and prompts.